Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the What Kind of Man at YouTube with another modelling video. Today we'll be reviewing and the complete demonstration of how to use Mr. Surfacer 500 by Gunze. It's a large 40ml bottle to memory. The beautiful thing about this product is it's a primer, sealant and putty all in one. The 500 is an indication of grit count, a lot like sandpaper. And more or less, when you apply this primer to your model, not only adheres paint to the plastic and uniforms the colour, but it has larger particles that assist in filling in fine scratches, pits and holes, but not covering up seam lines or nub marks. This is ideal for not too detailed models, fairly old models, or if you're attempting a metallic finish. It is absolutely vital and important that your airbrush is in tip-top condition. Probably give it a full clean, an ultrasonic clean once you finish with your previous models. Clean the needle, replace the nozzle, and as the particles and the consistency of this paint is very thick. If you have anything jammed in there like a tiny bit of tissue, lint or whatever, it will clog and never pass the needle or the nozzle. If your airbrush is in perfect working condition and perfectly clean, or that you have something with a larger nozzle opening like 0.5, that will work as well. Mixing ratio 50-50 or more, lacquer thinner to paint. Add a little bit, about half a dozen drops of Mr. Retardant. If your paint is still clogging and it's not passing the airbrush, there's something wrong with the airbrush and not the mixture of paint. So probably tip it in a separate container and do some further investigation instead of further thinning the paint or doing other silly things. If all of that works out and you're able to get a really nice consistency of paint out of your needle, up the PSI, probably somewhere over 20. Make sure your water trap and whatnot is absolutely dry and your compressor is also in top condition, and spray your model away as so. Now, the really cool thing about this paint is because it's so difficult to get through your airbrush and frustrating, once you finish your previous model and you're working on your new one and it's ready to be painted, this is the time when you do an absolute overhaul and clean up of your airbrush. Now, if you're still having trouble and it's not exactly your thing, this product is in a rattle can and you can apply it that way. Costs a bit more, but it is also a viable option for those that do not wish to airbrush or having far too much trouble. Follow these tips and you won't have any problems whatsoever. The major problem you most likely will have is with a split or crushed nozzle. But if your airbrush chamber is perfectly clear and if the airbrush is clean, again repeating this a few times, the product will have no problems working. Here's an example of the microfilling properties. I pulled back a bit and orange peeled on purpose, and this paint can do that if you want a textured effect or whatnot. But if you're working with a really rough surface and you pull your airbrush a bit, you can get a very rough sandpaper texture on your finish. Then you sand it down and apply a much smoother primer. This is a very good method and technique if your kit is just full of a lot of fine scratches, or if you use sandpaper or putties or any sort of scratch building methods to get a rough surface to something smooth. If it's very rough, you may want to use this technique a few times as the lacquer thinner evaporates and the primer does shrink a bit. Now back to the version that I was spraying. This used more thinner and of course Mr. Retardant, and it is absolutely perfect of getting a perfectly smooth, nice finish without any surface preparation or sanding whatsoever. So you got those two options, a bit coarse, bit rough for sanding back, or just your overall primer. And we all know this is a very old toy, very old tank. I've done a lot of painting, a lot of chemical wear, a lot of sanding, and it's as smooth as it generally gets. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, this is an ideal product, but if you do not want microfilling, or you're doing a far too detailed model where it might fill in all the detail and scribe panel lines and whatnot, Mr. 1000 or 1200 or 1500 be far more appropriate for your needs. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, reviews and tutorials every week. See you later.